Well, I'm real deep in it. Got this whole thing ripped apart. Took the top loading mech off to be able to see more of this little yellow plastic piece here. And this is what's supposed to pop up and cause the eject to occur. And it's just sort of floating here. I don't know if it's broken. There's a hole here that you would think would be attached to something. But this is the issue. Well, the first issue. I don't know how much further this will go. Listen to that. It's a big design flaw when you sit your head like this instead of horizontally. You have it all on the side. All the dust just falls in that little crack there, and yeah, that's a shame. But anyway, I'm gonna continue playing with this weird thing. It really looks like the only way to see what's going on is to remove this whole cast base, and with everything that goes on underneath and how intricately this all connects, I guarantee I would never get this back together in working order. While I got this open, let's just take a moment to appreciate the design of these Mitsubishis. So here's your supply reel, and directly coupled to a motor. Then you have your take-up, which is directly connected to another motor. There's the bottom of the motor for the video head. Here is your capstan motor. If we go down here, you can see the tape loading motor. And I believe this runs this complicated setup underneath here that pulls the guides in. Kind of runs all that. And possibly eject as well. I mean, if this runs eject, it could just be simply that the belt is slipping. Maybe I'm overthinking this. See, if it wasn't for this plastic on the bottom, which I thought was removable at first, it's got these two little catches to hold a lot of the wires, and this is molded into the main plastic piece. If I go up over here, let's get some more light. You can see when I lift this, this is the cassette. This is the whole mech, and I have it disconnected, but there are so many wires. Like, the wires going to the head here are not even, they don't even have any connectors. I would have to desolder them or remove the whole head. They're hidden behind this little shield, and I just need to get to this belt. Like, if this plastic wasn't there, it'd be so easy. Part of me just wants to break this off, and then I'll just glue it back on after. Oh, I love keeping things original, and I don't like the idea of destructively taking this apart to fix it, but like, my God, there's one belt in this, well, two belts if you count the counter, but one belt that matters, and it is so far buried inside. It's like they just went, well, when that belt dies, just like buy a new one or spend $1,000 at a repair shop for them to take this whole thing apart. Please don't hate me. I just don't want to take this whole bloody thing apart, only to not be able to put it back together. So I've destructively removed some of the plastic. I think my plan is, if this does need to be shielded when it gets put back together, I'll just put some dabs of glue and glue like a little thin piece of plastic over there. That ought to do it fine. Might also remove some rigidity to this whole thing by taking part of this out, but like, this isn't really a portable VCR in 2020. It's something that sits on a shelf. Anyway, that belt is bad. So I'm going to finish opening up this access hole a little bit further, and I'll see if I've got a belt I can put in here. Hey, you know what's really annoying? Everything about this. So This belt is quite thick. It's a very thick square belt. I don't have one, so I've put in a nice tight rubber band that I hope will work well enough for me to verify if this solves the problem. So now I just need to hook up a ton more electrical connectors so that I can test this again. Alright. Figure out what's wrong with that power switch. Very flaky. Eject. Oh, it ejects now. And only ejects. What? I think this might be a little bit out of alignment. That is still down. Why is that down? Alright. The contact cleaner I put in the power switch is starting to help now, so it's not as flaky. And I think I know what the issue is, and it might just be because I had this out and I need to do a little bit more alignment. When I press eject, see, it doesn't go down far enough in here to press this little switch. The moment I press that switch, everything's good. So, if I go and do this and immediately press that switch, then it thinks everything is ejected and it's wonderful. Now, let's try fast forward. That's weird. It was working for me a second ago. Fast forward. Rewind. Rewind seems flaky. Sometimes it doesn't seem to spin. It's been working rather well there. Hey. Oh. This tape is just getting destroyed here. I haven't cleaned anything in there. This is just sacrifice. Okay, that's good. Rewind again. It shouldn't surprise me. The only thing that might fail is on the on one of these reels. I think there might be a clutch on the take-up reel that might have been a little dirty or jammed up. Seems to be working fine now. Oh, I gotta push you down. There we go. So I think now I just need to realign that little micro switch and then give this thing a cleaning and hook it up and see if it actually plays something. You know, the smart thing to do would have been to clean this with this tape thing out. Oh well. It's nice and clean. Very little, if any, scraping sounds out of it anymore. It seems to be the gift that keeps on giving. There's a lot of dirt, but yeah, okay. Let's try it out. Also, this is a forehead. All right, moment of truth. I've got it connected to the TV. This top connecting here, I'm just putting to the input so that it mutes the tuner. Let's try rewind. Oh. I'm looking at this backwards. That was fast forward, that's rewind. Ooh. That doesn't sound so good. The tension sounds way too high. It's like squishing it against the head. Oh. That didn't quite work. What about fast forward scan? No picture. Yeah, it looks... It's interesting. Tracking doesn't do anything. Like, nothing. That's interesting. Pauses.
Oh, many pennies. It was 1:15. All the who's still abed, all the who's still at...
Oh, that's a nice pause. It's definitely forehead. Oh, there we go. So there's some weird glitching going on. I was able to get the picture to lock in by just playing with the little tension arm here. So I'm gonna let it play on this sacrificial tape to see if maybe my head cleaning just wasn't quite enough. I mean, there was a lot of dirt and garbage in this head. Let it run for a little bit, kind of play with this, work it in. So that audio is very muffled, and the picture, you can see there's a little bit of a dropout line along the top that's consistent even when I adjust tracking. And I'll show you what it looks like with SP here. Oh, that's pause. That's why. What? Now it's working?
It came without rhythm. It came without time.
Huh. Well, it wasn't working before. Oh, that's neat. The camera is syncing to the good field. So, yeah, there we go. There's the bad field. You can sort of see it. Neat. Okay. So there seems to be an inconsistency when this tape is loaded. Sometimes it loads and I was going to say that the head guides might need a tweaking, but I don't even know now.
It came without packages, boxes,
Bit of a...
bags.
I don't like leaning on the idea of, well, it's old and everything's been sitting here and it just needs to kind of work its way back, but I'm kind of seeing that. Let's try another SP movie. This one was definitely not playing correctly. So is this not latching in?
Brushing up on a little Danish.
But what the hell? Now it's perfect. Ooh, that pause is perfect. A lovely model for 1983. All direct driven by motors. One hard to reach belt. 4 video heads. Oh, there it goes. Yeah, it just dropped out for a second. Let's go back.
What? I'm afraid you're going to have to kiss off your lesson, James. We've got a situation here.
I'll be there in
So, it seems to be waking up. I'm going to continue playing with this, but it's looking more and more promising as I just use it, really. I mean, the head drum noise is almost completely gone, and it could be that the head drum wasn't getting up to a correct speed, or Could be that there's just so much dirt caught in those heads. It could be that the tape isn't sitting in correctly sometimes. The audio is tremendously muffled. I might tweak the azimuth of that head just a little bit, because this is an SP movie, and
Now,
Make that 30 minutes.
that sounds atrocious. That sounds as bad as a muffled EP recording, and that EP recording I was playing sounded even worse. But, I mean, otherwise, it seems to be waking up nicely. This little heatsink on the top is getting, toasty warm. And this little 330 ohm resistor near the power supply is getting also toasty warm. So, to get at this area here, you need to pull off this front panel with the switches and take off a little shield that covers here. And what's neat is that they expect you when you're servicing it to have this upside down, because look, I can see the switches on the backside. They're all labeled. That's kind of cool. Anyway, tried tweaking this the azimuth of this head, and it's actually set as good as it can be in terms of clarity. It's just still a little quiet and muffled. I might just be the nature of the beast with this machine. Maybe the circuitry is not what it once was. I saw some Hitachi branded parts on the back, so yeah. But yeah, it's coming back to life. It's getting better as I use it. What's interesting, because all of these motors are completely direct drive, listen to how it like comes up to speed when I unpause.
he wants to know why.
It's kind of neat.
Why did I do it?
Do a fast forward scan. That's working. Will rewind scan work this time? Yeah. Rewind's always a little noisy.
4 hours a day. And its satellite facility is linking.
So, I think I got this about as good as I can get it. Things are actually, so these the tape transport glides quite nicely. That grease is still. Is there even any grease in there? Maybe I'll put a little bit in. Seems to run real smooth though. When the bearings in the motor are a little bit noisy for the video head, but you only really hear them when it's spinning down. When it's up to speed, it's about the same volume you'd expect on any machine. On the topic of that belt being hard to access, there's already this metal shield that goes over it. So there's no point, other than maybe some structural rigidity, of having that plastic completely cover the belt location. That's just poor design. Poor design from Mitsubishi. So, I've got this thing back together. Now I just need to go grab all the outer pieces. Like I said, this thing was filthy. So I gave it a shower. Oh, and because I don't think I actually mentioned what I did to fix this eject problem. I don't think I mentioned what I actually did to fix the eject problem. This little beige arm here was underneath this metal arm here. So what it should be doing is it should be on top. If you look, the metal arm actually goes over it now. So this had just come loose, either because someone had taken it apart and not put it back together properly, or just over time maybe someone jammed it. But there's actually nothing wrong with this. This just sort of floats. So yeah, thankfully by taking out this loading mech and putting it back in, I was able to position it correctly. And then just needed to, I didn't even actually adjust this switch. I think the contacts on it were just a little dirty and they weren't making contact as easy. Here it is. This is the Mitsubishi HS-700UR Portable VCR from 1983. designed and styled to look like a boombox of the time. Very, very similar. This handle could be right off of a boombox. It's a top loader that pops from the front. Has a wonderful wired remote. And yeah, let's turn it on. This power switch is still flaky. And let's play a tape. Now when I first hit play, it seems to always take a bit of time to kind of kick in. Oh, it's actually at the very beginning of the tape, and it works. Counter's working. That belt was a pain to put back. Let's do some fast forward scan.
What's the missing link in your video collection?
It's got fairly clean special effects. This actually looks like it may have been an EP tape, one of these cheap kids EP tapes. There's no indicator as to what speed I'm playing back. If I flip this little door down, it does record in all 3 speeds. It's got an audio dub feature, tracking your clock set. Turn this on for program record. Your typical Mitsubishi clock that starts at 0 when it's not set. The electronic preset tuning with the controls here, and on top is where you set it, and then this little white switch here is your automatic fine tuning. So you set it like this, and by default AFT will be off as soon as you open this up, because when you're tuning these you always want AFT to be off. So this design is nice because it forces the user to turn that off when they're setting the presets. Video TV for the RF modulator, which I'm not using. It's got a battery indicator, and it does have a deuce sensor. And what's cool about this is it acts like a boombox. Those boomboxes with the drawer that opens for a cassette and your tape is in upside down. If you ever looked at those, the play direction is always backwards. And that's because the tape goes this way. It doesn't go left to right. So this actually follows that. And it keeps throwing me off because fast forward is on the left and rewind is on the right. It always sounds so weird when it starts up again because it doesn't start up instantly. It kind of revs up to speed. Very weird. But yeah, it's a pretty simple unit. Other than that, on the left side, obviously you can pull out your little numbers for the tuner. You can play with that later. If I flip this around completely, here's the compartment for the battery, and that's also where the power supply goes. So this is just a little power supply that slides in and plugs into this little connector here. And there's also a little barrel connector above it if you were to plug in the battery. So the battery has a little cable with a barrel connector on it. I'll put that back on later. And if you want to charge the battery, you plug it into this barrel connector here. So this one's in, this one's out. Taking a look at the back, here's your RF connections. The Mitsubishi's always had this weird connector for UHF. Kind of reminds me of those Sonys that had the 2 opposite gendered pins that went in for the 300 ohm terminals. There's no UHF out though, so it won't pass the antenna through. This is only an antenna input, but it does have RF pass through here. What's neat is it does have Japanese writing on it as well, even though this is a US model. Switch for the RF modulator, channel 3 and 4, pretty standard. The rest of the back here is pretty standard. February of 83, so this is a 1982-83 model. This is model year 83. This is very, very old. It doesn't look that old though. Here we are going around the side. You have an external microphone input, audio in out, video in out, your picture control, sharpness, Here's where you would connect a camera. If you're carrying this around as a portable VCR to connect to one of those cameras before camcorders became a thing, you'd plug your camera in here. And the connector for the remote is there, a wired remote. I feel like this would be more difficult to lug around because you have to hold onto this handle. Oh my god, that weighs a ton. With your hand instead of using a shoulder strap if you were using this as a portable. Forward is on the left and reverse is on the right. This actually matches what's on the front. That's funny. So I've gotten this thing up, I would say, in perfectly good working order. It is missing the stop button, but you can just stick your finger in there. Stick your finger in there to press the switch. The only other complaint I have is the audio is quite muffled. I've scrubbed down and cleaned the head, the audio head. I tried adjusting the azimuth a little bit, and it seems to be that's the best spot for it. It's muffled. I don't know. Could be worn out. Who knows? If you want to take a look inside. There's the look from above. I mean, it's pretty standard. But what's very cool, what I showed earlier, this is directly driven by a motor. You can see the gear. And this is directly driven by a motor with a clutch, and the motor's directly underneath it. Then the video head drum has a motor, and the capstan has a motor. At the very bottom, there's a loading motor. And the loading motor has a belt. There's only 2 belts in this. This one here for the counter, which still works fine, and the loading motor belt that was pretty spongy. This guy here. Yeah, a little sticky, was giving off this, it's like a silicone grease that it has on it. It's giving off, so it was all slippery. I had to clean the wheels with alcohol before putting just the rubber band in there. I don't have a replacement belt, but the rubber band's working fine. Rubber bands won't last. You can use them in like loading assemblies and things where you don't need a good constant speed. They've got a bit of, they're very rubbery, they're very stretchy, so they'll tend to drift. They'll store a bit of energy, release a bit of energy. They're not a nice consistent speed, but for this sort of stuff they work okay. They also break down a lot faster. The rubber will degrade, they'll just fall apart faster than a proper belt. But in a pinch, like now I don't have the proper replacement belt, works just fine. Don't let anyone tell you different, but they are not a good professional replacement for belts. Yeah, anyway, let's try an SP tape. Turn the volume back up.
Ice cold in the snow.
So the playback's a little flaky. You'll notice some color, noise artifacts. Every once in a while it'll flip in and out. It seems like there's dirt bouncing around in the head. A lot of what looked like rust fell out of the head when I started spinning it. It was making a crunching sound. Because of the way the head's mounted, the slit between the drum, the spinning drum, and the base is facing up. So all the years of dust and dirt just fall in there, and it was just caked. So it's getting better, but it was nasty inside. But as you can see, a wonderful forehead pause. Wonderful fast forward. I love how it gets up to speed and then slows down like that. Rewind. Mitsubishi always did things differently. And yeah, there's really not much to this guy. If you want to set the clock, it's got a fast and slow. So I can go reverse slow, or fast forward and slow forward. Not too sure what this flashing thing is. Normally that means the clock's not set. Do I set that? No, I don't know what that flashing is. I know on some machines that usually means that it's the clock hasn't been set. But even if I set the clock on here, is this a 24-hour clock? Ooh, it is a 24-hour clock. Delightful. Okay, 4:28, guys. Yeah, I don't know what that flashing is. It's something. See, I've set start and I've set finish, and it's still flashing. I guess that's just your seconds. And I think some of you might want to see rewind. Let's turn that volume down and we'll rewind. It's definitely noisy on rewind, and it does this on all cassettes. So I don't know if it's just the way the cassette sits makes more noise, or if the motor drive with that little clutch underneath the reel is a little rattly. Because it doesn't do it on fast forward. Nice. Let's do fast forward a little. And I'm going to reset here. So let's see if it has any memory function. Nope. No memory function. Counter is just a counter. Which I guess I knew that. I took this out. There was no switch on the counter. I already knew that. Crazy. Rewind. Fast forward. Pause. But yeah, that's this thing is awesome. I love. Oh god damn, that's heavy. Absolutely love the form factor of this. Like it is a boombox. You can sit this on a very shallow shelf, although it has to support a shitload of weight. It's got a beautiful front to it, a lot of class, a lot of class. Where if the tuner works? Let me plug it in and see. Okay. Do this in one take. In is that one there. And I'll hit stop. Unplug the mute. Well, the tuner's off because channel 4 should have something. 2, 3, 4. There we go. So, tuner works. Actually, wow. That is a very strong tuner. Like, this is a weak channel. Channel 4 is not very strong, so excellent. Oh, I love that. This is the Mitsubishi HS-700UR. Fuck, I don't remember. Hold on.